Hello everyone. I'm already at a complete loss because I did the start the opposite way. And welcome back. Welcome back to a show that's completely different than the one 2 days ago. To a show that's probably gonna bring up some completely different points from 2 days ago. And to a show where my voice is gonna give out 15 minutes in because I got back like an hour ago or so. Thankfully, I'm not alone once again, so I'm gonna leave my first thoughts as a second priority. I'm gonna give you the floor, man. How are you feeling after that?
Thankfully, we've had a couple hours to cool off because I think if we would have talked right after the match ended, I might have been in a much worse mood. Yeah, like you said, complete opposite of what we saw on Saturday. Um, just, in my opinion, the worst performance we've seen from Olympiacos since Maccabi almost 2 years ago at this point. I mean, that's just how bad it was. I think it says a lot that your only player, maybe there's one more who can walk away from this match with their head held high as a 19-year-old. I think that just speaks volumes about what we saw today. But like you said, it's a wake up call. We have some huge matches coming up. This was obviously a huge match on its own, but it's over now. And this really shows us that if we're not on our game, I mean, imagine if we play like that against Leverkusen or even Ajax. I mean, that's the thing that I keep thinking of. We have to turn this around and we have to do it quick.
Usually, we don't have these types of performances in Europe, so that's not necessarily what I'm scared of. What I am terrified of is for this not to be a wake-up call. Because the bare minimum that the team needs to take from today, even though I said that before we started as well, I'm a bit more positive than you, but we'll get into that. The thing that the team needs to take away from today is that you can't underestimate any game. Any game, doesn't matter if it's the cup, the league, or anything like that. And you need to have your mind on the game that's there, not the next one, not any other competition, or nothing like that. In the next few weeks, we have Leverkusen, we have Ajax, we have AEK, and we have Panathinaikos. And AEK, mind you, that got as embarrassed today, losing to an Offi that got 2 suspensions to their name. I didn't see the game, I saw nothing. I'm just going off what I saw on paper. So an AEK that's going to be extra motivated, to say the least, in the league, even though they have Europe, but that's a whole different story. And you have a Panathinaikos that last I checked was absolutely tearing apart Paris, and you have a Panathinaikos that has the opposite problem, doesn't have that many chances in Europe, so they're going to be extra motivated in the domestic competitions. If the team plays like they did today, I'm more worried that shit's going to go down in the league than in Europe. Now, to flip that a bit, if I'm completely wrong on my assessment and you go out and get embarrassed by Leverkusen, then you have a completely different talk. Today, I'm not going to present it as a wake-up call because that's on the team to take it as a wake-up call. Today, the team got exposed. Today, the team got exposed by Lucescu, who fucking hate the guy. Props to him, he's an incredible coach. The team got exposed by the absences in the depth there is. We have, I didn't want to be, but I got proven right about Taremi. He can't keep up with the big teams. Even domestically, he can't keep up with the big teams, and we saw that today.
I don't know if it's that he can't. I'll give my opinions on him. I think today was a big mentality exposure for a lot of guys, but Taremi specifically.
I mean, we've seen his name linked to, to Nottingham. I don't know if that's something to keep an eye out for, but if a player like Mehdi Taremi gets affected by stuff like that, I don't even want to think that it's a mentality issue, because then that's even worse. Because you're talking about a player with an amazing career that's perhaps on the downfall, on the end side of that career. Now, if it's rumors that are creating what we saw today, then there's no words on my end. But as you said, there's this and there's this. There's always two sides to a game, and I'm going to focus on the positive one first, because it's way less than the negative. For me, it's not just Mouzakitis, and I said this before we started. I'm keeping three names from today. I'm keeping Christos Mouzakitis, I'm keeping Panos Retsos, and I'm keeping Roman Yaremchuk. For me, as lackluster as the general image may be, they get a bit of a saving grace, especially the first two, but Yaremchuk as well. Yaremchuk is the more debatable one, because I don't think anyone has any real complaints about Mouzakitis especially, but honestly Retsos as well. The guy had to come up and play second striker at some point with how lackluster we were going up the field. Yaremchuk, for me, at least did what he had to do. He is a striker, he's a target man. Yaremchuk is a target man. He's not Taremi. He's more El Kabir style than he's Taremi. There was no one to hit the guy. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. But you at least saw him make runs. You saw him fight for the ball. He's the only player that can say that they went in and they completely killed Paok's defense. They couldn't get the ball off him. And he actually was a goddamn number 9. It's Taremi wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I can see what you're saying for all those guys. I would say of the two, Yaremchuk definitely. I mean, going forward, I would say he was definitely one of the ones that seemed like he was at least trying to push things forward. I might disagree on the fact that I don't think he really did a whole lot. The main thing that stuck out to me with Yaremchuk is, I mean, it must have been like 80th minute, I believe. Rodine, who was hitting every cross into the wall, or the first defender, finally gets a good cross into Yaremchuk, and he gets the ball. He's back to goal, like 8 yards out, and instead of trying to turn and shoot, he tries to fall backwards and get the penalty. I think that was very that really epitomized a lot of our performance today, because I think it really seemed like, getting back to the mentality thing, it seemed like a lot of our players just wanted to game the ref. It was like they knew that we weren't playing well, so let me try to go down and get a foul. I think Taremi was the worst out of all of them. I hit on Taremi probably 5 or 6 times on my thread. You guys can go back and see my game-long crash out on this team. Again, he's a supremely talented player. He's a really important player for us, but that's what makes it more frustrating when you see him play that way, because he was probably our most talented player on the pitch, other than, I would say, Mouzakitis at this point today, in just terms of talent. And he spent half the match on the floor. I mean, how are you helping the team win if that's how you're going to play? But trying to hit on some of my bright points again, I agree on Christos Mouzakitis. I mean, I think it's a huge positive, but at the same time, it really bothers me that he was the one guy who really seemed like he was trying to take this game by the scruff. He's 19. I mean, listen, it's awesome that we have a guy like that. He's a golden boy for a reason, but I mean, you have Chiquinho around him, you have Taremi around him, you have Zelson Martins out there, you have all these guys that are so experienced and should have more wherewithal in these sorts of games, and they don't, or they didn't today. I wouldn't say they don't in general. Today they didn't. So as much as it's a positive, it's kind of a damnation on the rest of the team. And then my only other player I would say I think really can leave this match not feeling bad about how they played is Olympiacos. I don't think you can really blame him for either of the goals. He was one-on-one for the first one, and both of his center backs are jogging back as Mithu is running through clear on goal. And then, I mean, the second goal, side netting volley from 10 yards out. I mean, I don't think anyone's saving that. He did make a couple of important saves that kept the scoreline at least somewhat respectable. I mean, I think this match could have ended 3-0 or 4-0 to Paok, and it wouldn't have been an unfair scoreline. So I think that says something about him. But, I mean, again, I wouldn't say he's as much of a bright light as Musakitis. But, yeah, I mean, it's just I think that one of the players I really do want to circle back on is Taremi. I don't think we're at a point with him where, I mean, lack of passion is what I would say would perfectly epitomize him. Obviously, he's, like you said, he's a very successful footballer. He's had a great career. I mean, the fact that he's in the conversation as one of, if not the greatest Asian footballer of all time, I mean, that says a lot. But today it was unacceptable from him. I mean, I think he's one of a few guys who I really look at after this match and is like, you need to knock up the head, because it didn't seem like he was actually trying to create anything. Every time he touched the ball and he was within 5 feet of a defender, you knew how it was going to end. And it was going to end with him on the floor and the Paok player running away with the ball. And I don't think the ref called the foul for it a single time. And I don't even blame the ref for that, because I don't think any of them were fouls. Maybe here and there, but I mean, again, when you're throwing yourself around like that, I honestly don't even blame the ref if he doesn't call something that should be a call, because it's clear what you're trying to do. That's the kind of mentality that we can't have. I think, again, I don't think it was just him. I think a lot of our guys were doing that. I think Dani Garcia was doing it a lot in the midfield. We could talk about him as well, having a very, very bad match. You could say the same about Yaremchuk a few times, even though he was far less egregious. You could say the same thing sometimes about Zelson, even though I think he probably had one of the better performances, even though he wasn't great. You just can't have that. That is an unacceptable mentality. That's not a Mendilibar mentality. That happened on the pitch. That happened because we got down early, because we sleepwalked through the first 15 minutes, and then out of frustration, we've decided we're just going to throw a tantrum. Can't have that. It's unacceptable. But the other point I do want to touch on, like you said originally, Lucescu did outcoach Mendilibar today. He absolutely did. His tactics were a lot better. His selection was a lot better. I think Mendilibar thought that Paok were going to come in and try to sit on a 0-0 and take this game to penalties. That's why he started Yazici. That's why he started Dani Garcia instead of players like Yaremchuk or Podense or Eze, because he thought that was what this game was going to be. And I think that is a major misstep. As anyone that knows Greek football, Paok are not that kind of team. I mean, they have been in the past, but not under Lucescu, not with the players they have. You have to know you're coming in. I mean, their squad, I think, in Greece is the closest squad to us in terms of talent. And I don't think it's that far off. You have to know coming into this sort of match that they're going to come and try to play. And he tried to be too conservative, and that backfired on us. And then the players compounded that by having just an academy level mentality today. So there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot more negatives to go through, but it's just like, it was a perfect storm of things. And you just have to move on from it. I mean, I really hope that these players can just like goldfish memory it. As much as I do think this is something that needs to be emphasized, and you need to review this and go back and see where the errors were made. I think so much of what went wrong today happened up here. And that's where I think at a certain point, it's like, you just have to forget that ever happened. Because if you carry this into next games, it doesn't even matter if you're playing Panathinaikos or Leverkusen or Ajax. If we play like that against Volos, we're going to lose. Plain and simple. So I think it's just one of those things you just have to let it go. But there does have to be the standard set that is unacceptable. There were a lot of things that happened today that just do not belong anywhere near Olympiacos. And if anybody makes a habit of what we've seen, you're not going to have a spot. You don't get to play for this club if that's how you're going to be.
I'm going to circle back to what you started with, which is, of course, Taremi. And I am going to mention one more thing that perhaps wasn't that apparent on TV. But maybe it was. I don't even know. I haven't even had the chance to watch the highlights. Okay, yeah, he was on the floor a lot, which annoyed me as well. But at some certain points, he did get murdered. He got absolutely bodied, which is also perhaps a negative on Taremi as well, because you saw Yaremchuk getting like Ozutoev, for example, even Mythos, even midfielders, even Zivkovic at some point. But Taremi is an absolute monster physically. He doesn't go down easy. The point you did mention, yeah, that was a bit iffy. That's why I'm pretty sure there was no reaction from anyone really as well. And I'm not even going to get into the ref in general, because not at fault for what happened today. I'm taking this somewhere else, and I'm taking this into two specific things. And those are the chances that he missed. Especially that combined chance at the end with Danny Podman's God that felt like a goddamn dagger to the heart.
I mean, that was the only goal-saving tackle an Olympiacos player made today, and it was two Olympiacos players on each other. I mean, again, one of these things, there's so many little instances that happen in this game where it's like, you don't need to watch the full 90. Watch that. Watch Yaremchuk try to take a fall instead of turning with a pretty decent cross. I mean, watch both of our center backs jogging back on the first goal. I mean, that was this game. You don't even need to watch the rest.
It's not even that. Like, you get the first chance. They were back to back as well with God. I thought people were gonna jump in at some point. You get the cross where Taremi and Yaremchuk, as you said, just fall over each other. Then the ball comes back to Taremi somehow, and Taremi, instead of shooting it, he holds it, which has Chiftis coming out, which has Taremi basically passing it to him, that Chiftis somehow doesn't catch. And the ball goes to Danny, and with everyone down and half the net open, Danny skies it. Like, come on. And as you said, that's the whole game. That play alone is the whole game. And then you have the next play where a cross comes in again, and instead of Taremi attempting a normal shot, he slides and sends it wide. Like, what do you expect at this rate?
Well, I mean, and that's the other thing as well. Like, we had double the chances. Okay, I think we finished with 12 shots, 11 or 12 shots. Paok finished with 5.
Didn't feel like that.
It didn't feel like that. All of Paok's were on target, so that was part of it. I mean, I think we only had 3 on target. I mean, really, the only big chance where we're unlucky not to score was, again, Musakitis with an absolute thunderbolt, which was an incredible save from Tiftis. But again, when he's having a comfortable game because no one else is pressuring him, of course he's going to step up and make that. you're saying on the tab there, it was miscommunications. It was poor execution. I mean, and that goes back to minute one. I mean, that was my main gripe with the 2 goals that we conceded. And I went in on Retsos a little bit. And again, I want to preface all of this that I'm saying. I love Panos Retsos. I'm glad that he's our captain. I own his shirt, for Christ's sake. I mean, I'm not a hater. He was poor today, in my opinion, especially on the first goal. But I would give him something on the second goal too, which I'll get into in a minute. I mean, you can't expect to start a game well and have a team that is on the same page and having a strong mentality when your captain isn't even sprinting back to try and close a defender down. I mean, try to close an attacker down. Mithu got to basically walk the ball into the net. We had 4 defenders back. I mean, it's on Biancon too. Biancon loses Mithu and lets him run straight through. Ortega loses Mithu and lets him run straight. Both of them. It was on both of them. He ran through the middle of the 2 of them.
For me, for a start, because someone pointed it out as well and I went back to check it out. First of all, it's on Ortega. Because he first loses his man, like what happened against Kifissia. It's the same run all over again. Yep. This time it's just a cross and not a shot. Then it's on Biancon because it's his side. It's his duty to cover the left back's mistakes. And then it's on the Retsos, for me, at least.
Of course. I mean, that gets back to the main point is like in all of these situations, everyone has fault here, right? But again, I will give that blame to Biancon and Ortega. Retsos is the captain, right? I'm always going to hold him to a much higher standard and regard. I also know he's a much better player than both of them. He's going to be here. He was here before both of them. He will be here after them, right? So when I say the things I say, and people were giving me a hard time online, and that's fine. I'm not saying this because I hate the player because I think he sucks. He doesn't. I'm saying this because I know he doesn't suck, which is why it irritates me to see him do something sucky. But I mean, again, that sort of play and that sort of goal to concede at the beginning, like that set the tone, right? And when you're the captain, like you need to set that tone. You need to be the one running back, even though it's not your mistake. And then you need to be getting into Biancon and Ortega for falling asleep. Second goal was just as bad in my opinion, and I think more so on Biancon. But again, your captain is also right there. How do you not step up to help Christos Mouzakitis, who's what, meter 72, who's trying to mark 1 meter 90 Ozdoyev, who's doing a flying kick in the box? Biancon and Retsos are marking air. Nobody steps up to help close it down on a much smaller midfielder, right? I mean, these were the sorts of goals we were conceding, and this was the sort of performance we were seeing. I mean, you can't expect a different result when that's how you start. And then that mentality never changed and never improved, and you saw it leak into the rest of the game. That's when you started to see our attackers going forward. Right after the first goal, Dani Garcia, I saw the replay again, it was not a penalty. He did not touch him. Dani Garcia just goes down. I don't think it was a penalty. And then that was the rest of the game.
I'm not in any way saying that's at fault for the game. Not in any way.
Even if it was, say it was a clear as day penalty. I mean, again, why are we playing for that, right? I mean, why is that the end goal? That we're not attacking to score; we're attacking to get a penalty or to get a free kick. I mean, that's how it snowballs, and again, that's where a manager has to be able to set his team straight and get them brought together and prepared, even if that happens at halftime. It should happen before the game, but again, there's certain things that I'm not going to hold Mendilibar at fault for how the players necessarily respond to a situation in game that the players themselves created. But something went sideways with the preparation for this, and that's on Mendilibar to figure that out. But this is one of those games where you really do need your leaders to step up and be the voice of reason, so that it's not just your manager. Panos Serechos is one of those. Again, I think he has some blame here, but that's where you come in as a captain and you say, "Hey, we all weren't good enough here. This is what we need to do to fix it." And you would hope that it would also be guys like Taremi, guys like Yaremchuk, who are either experienced, who have been around this team for a while. We'll see how those personalities respond, especially Taremi. I mean, again, I just go back to I was really disappointed by him today. So I'll try not to say too much and get all of Iran on our backs. I don't hate him as a player. I think he's a very good player, but man, today was rough.
If you don't get Iran on our backs, I probably will, but that's a different story. To play devil's advocate a bit on Rechos, because I had my eye on him like constantly. For me, for the first goal, he's not really at fault. For the second, I full on agree with you. No one helped Musakitis. That's on both of them equally. But in general, it's exactly what you said, that someone had to step up today. And if, again, with what I saw up close, if anyone stepped up today, that's Rechos. He had to pick up a failing defense, because I'm sorry, bar Rechos, even if you excuse the goals, all three of them were below average at best. And Biancon was running up with the ball, completely whiffing the final ball, and then Rechos had to cover for both of them on Paok counterattack. Ortega and Costinha lost their man, God knows how many times. I didn't really see your thread, but you called it out about Rodney immediately. And speaking of people that should have stepped up and didn't, he's up there because he came in and within 3 minutes he started the scrap with Tyson, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and that's one of your captains too. I mean, to your point, I mean that is absolutely. He came in and not only did he not add anything to this game from a mentality standpoint, he was awful. He played awful. He did not play. I don't know who has decided that he's our set piece guy. I never want to see Rodinei over a free kick or a corner ever again.
He's lost the corner. I don't think he took a singular corner today, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's because Musakitis played the whole game, which rarely ever happens under Mendilibar lately. But I mean, he steps up, and you're basically already saying, all right, this play's over. I mean, Paok might as well have fouled us every time we got within 10 feet of the box, because he was just going to pass the ball right back to them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's to a point where it's like I don't know what else to say, because it's like
it's not even that with Rodinei though, because we've seen that we've known that Rodinei should fall behind the set piece order. I'm gonna call back, because thankfully when you're there, even in the bad games, you can call back specific play. I'm pretty sure it was Costadellas, but I may be wrong on that. Rodinei is holding the ball, and then Costadellas just tips it beside him and runs away. And there is nothing Rodinei can do there.
I believe that was actually Retsos. I think he was the one who gave it away.
That's probably two different plays with how we played today. Going back to that though, because I wasn't finished. You have a defense that's failing, and then you have in front of you up until the 70th your first coverage is Danny Garcia, who did nothing today. He did nothing today. So he's covering 5 positions. And as I said, at some point, he was up in the box for a while because he had to be, because we needed something that we weren't getting. I don't think Rechos is someone you can say didn't step up. People who you can say didn't step up are most of the rest of the veterans, quote unquote, of the team. Because as you said, it's Mouzakitis that stepped up. Esse, once he came in, the midfield kind of balanced a bit. Chiquinho was below his average, of course. But I don't think I'm going to put that much blame on Chiquinho himself when he had Yazici on one end that couldn't control a single ball today. Because as much as we've given him credit, we need to face the other side as well. He was horrific today. You had Zelson that, yes, helped once he had the ball, but his off-ball movement today was simply not Zelson. And behind him, he had a Mouzakitis that had to cover Garcia's defensive part, and he had Garcia. And in front of him, he had Taremi. So for me, at least, because again, I'm recalling specific plays, Chiquinho, where he got the ball at the edge of the box and did nothing, and people booed around. When you have no one open, nobody open, where are you supposed to give the ball? No one was making runs. And it goes back to what we were saying before. Where even is it? It goes back to this. It goes back to the simple unwritten rule of football that Paok wanted this goddamn game and we didn't.
And I mean, part of it too, I mean, lack of passion, obviously, but we played like the game was over from 15 minutes. And I mean, obviously coming back from 2-0 down against a Paok team, I mean, you saw the gamemanship come out in them a bit. I mean, it definitely wasn't as bad as we've seen with most of these other teams we played this season. But I mean, you can still at least try. You can still at least try to keep people in their seats past the 80th minute. I mean, I think it says I'm actually kind of glad this game happened at home, and I'm hoping that it had some sort of effect on the players. The Karaiskakis never clears out that early, ever.
It was going to get to that.
Yeah, it did tonight because that was the performance that the team gave. I mean, 32,000 people paid money to come watch this team. They were still seeing for this team well into the second half. And the team responded with nothing. I mean, I hope the players noticed that. I don't know if they did. They probably didn't. I hope they did.
Oh, they did.
That says a lot. I mean, I think the last time I remember, at least from watching a game on TV and like a big spot where that happened was, I want to say, like, you remember the Champions League match against Sporting? I think everyone cleared out of there before Pardo scored either of his goals.
I can give you a way closer example. Haifa at home.
Yep.
Maccabi at home.
I turned that game off in the 60th minute. That's why I didn't see it.
I was there for both.
Yeah. I mean, that says something. That says a lot. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, that's where I think this team needs to recenter and realize that all of these games are important. I mean, I think one of the pitfalls of a lot of Olympiacos teams, especially teams that are successful, is that after a while they get into this rhythm of thinking that they can just show up to matches and win. Now, I don't think that has been as much of a factor with Mendilibar because I think he's a much better manager than many of the others we've had. But I think this happens on a player level. And again, that's where you really do look at your veterans and you say, shame on you, because that shouldn't happen. I mean, you're looking, again, some of the guys you talked about, like Taremi, I mean, he's been all over Europe. Danny Garcia, I mean, how many years did he play in La Liga? Rodinei,
11, I think.
Yeah. Rodinei's played in some of the biggest teams in Brazil. I mean, he should know better than anyone about what these games mean, especially when you play at a club that has the kind of passion and fire that Olympiacos has and expects to translate into the players. I mean, you do have to look at those things, even though they're not football related. I mean, that is the expectation, that you play until 90 and the fans will stay until 90. And when you don't play until the 90, that's when you're going to finish the game to a half empty stadium. That's when you're not going to get clapped off the pitch. That's when you're going to get booed off the pitch at halftime because you were so pitifully awful that doesn't deserve the support.
Because I know you don't have unlimited time as well. Before we get into the final quick part of what I wanted to talk about today, I'm going to talk about the Karaiskakis a bit. And again, I don't think we've disagreed this much on the show before, which is, I guess, it's given with results like this. It's half and half. I'll tell you who noticed the fans leaving. Fucking Rechos did, because he mentioned it. And he mentioned exactly what you said on the post game. He's the first one that went up to the fans alone, not even with the team. He went to the fans alone before the team followed. He's the first one that listened to Gate 7. And of course, he's the main person that understands. Now, it's half and half for me. I'm a person that has, again, no, I've left once. With Haifa, I bailed at like the 85th. But usually, I tend to stay at least until the final whistle. And for me, that's not a right or wrong opinion. That's just a personal opinion. Fans shouldn't go.
Oh, I agree.
Before the final whistle. I think half-empty stadiums is more of a shame on the fans than the players when it comes to the final whistle. But in general, I tend to see both sides. Today, I didn't, to be fair with you, because it's exactly what you said. We haven't seen this clear out in the Karaiskakis in a minute. Mind you, we haven't played this bad in a minute. But the fact, and this will go back to the rant I make, this is episode 131, I think. I've probably made this rant on 125 of the episodes. Greek fans switch up immediately. I bet you that there is a lot of people that put out correct criticism today. Because there is a lot, I've seen a lot. But half the people that left the stadium, I bet you said the same exact things. Of course, there were people that were leaving for obvious reasons. There were people that left. I'm not even talking about the people that left like 5 minutes ago, 5 minutes before the final whistle. I saw people that left around the 70th and stuff. You stay and you support your team. At least until you're close to the final whistle and you know that the game's over.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean,
yeah. Go on.
No, I mean, to kind of nuance my point of it, I agree with that. I'm the same sort of way. But I do think it is something the players should take heed of. And while I agree that the fans should stay, the players also there's almost a bit of a social contract there, in my opinion. The fans owe the players support, even when they're playing badly. The players owe the fans the matching effort, even if you don't play well. I think the reason why today I think it was notable and why it should be paid attention to by the players is because the effort wasn't there in a lot of different aspects. And I'm not saying that applies to everyone that played. I'm not saying that applies to necessarily the entirety of the match. But for too much of this match, the issue was effort. It wasn't that Paok came in and played exceptionally well. They were good. They deserved to win. They didn't. I mean, we made them look like Madrid. They are not that team. So that's where, to a certain point, like I agree with both. I agree that yes, the fans should stay, but at the same time, I don't know if the players earned that today, even though I agree that the fans should stay. So I think, again, you know, and like you said too, I think there are a lot of reactionary people. I think a lot of people will see the things that I say and think that I'm being reactionary. I'm not switching up on anybody. Reinforce this. I've given a lot of criticism today. I don't dislike any of these players. I don't think any of these players are bad players, but they played bad today. Like I'm not going to sit here and act like they didn't. They played bad. You continue to support the team. Obviously, you shouldn't change how you feel about the team or the players, but these reactions I think are worth heeding to a degree because it shows. I mean, it's a reflection. All of it's a mirror, in my opinion. When the players play like that, that's the reaction you're going to get. So if that bothers you, like again, doesn't surprise me that Retsos was the first one. I didn't even see his post-match interview, so I didn't bring this up knowing that. I mean, I hope he wasn't the only one that noticed it, and I hope that bothers him. I hope it bothers our other guys because it should. I mean, that as a player, I mean, it's one of the beautiful parts of football, especially one of the beautiful parts about a club like Olympiacos is the support you get. It is the fact that the fans, even if you are playing poorly most of the time, are going to stay there and stand by you. And we've seen that this season with Olympiacos when we played poorly, where it hasn't necessarily been an effort issue, but we've played poorly. You don't see the stadium clear out like that if it's just a bad performance. You see the stadium clear out like that when the team is just not giving an acceptable effort. So that's my nuance to that, and I agree with everything you said, but it is worth looking at and just hopefully learning from, because that's one of the things you hate to see as a fan. I'm sure you hate to see it as a player. That signifies that something's wrong.
For sure, and I don't think you can even say that that's worth learning from. I think it's a necessity to learn from that. It's a must, especially now where we are at in the season. Now, one last thing I want to talk about. If you have time, do you have time?
Yeah, I'm okay. I have another 15 minutes.
If that's we won't even need 15 because I don't want to get into it that much today, but we need to talk about it. It's January 14th. We need to talk about it. Another thing that got exposed today is the need for transfers. I've been a person in general that doesn't really stand on you need to bring 7 people in January and 4 need to go. That's not what January is for. And we've done that before a few Januaries ago, and let me remind you how that went. But the team needs reinforcements. I don't know who will go. I have a few names in mind, and I will name them. I'm not going to be like, this guy and this guy. First priority for me is the priority that seems to be half settled already, and that's the left back position. And we need the left back like Quibiano, I'm pretty sure is his name. That switch with Bruno needs to happen because Ortega needs competition. And as much as I love what Bruno brings to the table, because Bruno's speed, Bruno's strength, and Bruno's overlap ability is top notch, but he's lacking in everything else. And that's a problem. And if it's the best for both parties, that switch needs to happen. Of course, without tossing Bruno away with finding an appropriate offer. Then another thing that I personally have been screaming about, we need a goddamn I'm not necessarily going to stand on the opinion that we need a clear winger, because I don't think we do. But we need a player that can switch like Chiquinho does. We need a player that can both run out to the wing, and we need a player that can play centrally as well. We need a Fortunis type of player. I am aware that there is no way we get Fortunis now, but we need a Fortunis type of player. I don't know what's going to happen with Yasici after today. I don't know how his time's going to be spread. I'm not just going to switch up on what I was going to say. I still believe in the player. Bad nights are bad nights. Even though he does take blame for today, of course he does. Everyone does. But we need a player like that. And my third move, I'm not going to talk about a striker because I do not believe that we need a striker. And again, that's one of the reactionary things that I saw that drive me insane. We do not need striker. We just need to think of who is behind Ayub first. So this chaos doesn't happen with the two striker situation and stuff. We can't play two strikers without Ayub. I think today solidified that. The third person that I think that we need is a center back. I don't know if Mancha will go. For me, Mancha needs to be loaned out to a club where he won't have the pressure, but he will play. And you need a center back that can come in and reinforce your team. Because as much as El Kabi's absence has affected us, so has Pirola's. And not enough people are mentioning that. Like, I love Biancon, I love Kalogeropoulos, no one's Pirola. And you need someone that can come in, and as Kalogeropoulos up to a point has covered Retsos, you need someone that can come in and not be at the level that Kalogeropoulos is, because that's a developing talent. You need a ready player that can come in and cover your ass in the back consistently. Because let me make something clear, Biancon can do that. Biancon just lacks the consistency we need sometimes. So for me, these are the three moves. Go.
Well, and I think as well, talking about Pirola, I mean, he's a guy we're going to need to replace because he's probably going to go in the summer. I would be surprised if we have him next season. So like you said, I think it's good to find someone who right now can come in and consistently fill in that spot, but with the goal in mind that next season they're going to be our starting center back next to Panos Retos. On a similar vein to that, I'll throw another position / name in there as well. Speaking of the fact that we're probably going to lose Pirola, we're almost certainly going to lose Christos Mousakidis going into next season. I don't know if Nascimento or Scipione are ready to fill that position yet. That's probably going to be a couple of guys that we're either going to need to loan or part ways with if we don't see the vision there. But also, Dani Garcia, I do not want him on this team next season. I'm sorry. I mean, I feel like he was pretty good for us last season. I think we've gotten to a point with him, and it's not just today. I mean, he was horrible today, but the issue with him, I think, out of all of these guys that we've talked about, is he's the one who I think has been consistently very, very, very poor this season. So I think, you part ways with that amicably, but I don't want to see him on the team next season. So you kind of almost need a player who can cover both of those roles, or you need two players. We will need to think about center mid. That doesn't necessarily have to be right now. Again, like you said, I think center back is more pressing, but we do need to think about center mid. And then, I mean, I agree. I would almost say we probably need another right back too, in addition to left back, just because I'm worried that Rodine is quickly going to become a second Danny Garcia in the sense that he's going to play himself out of a role in the team because Rodine has not had a good performance in a while. He hasn't been as bad as consistently as Danny has been, but he's getting older as well, so I think that's worth considering. Um, and then, like you said, I would say a winger. It doesn't necessarily have to be a winger, just like another creative player. Because I mean, right now it really is Muzakitis and Chiquinho. I wouldn't necessarily say any of our wingers, other than sometimes Podense, but he hasn't had that great of a season. They just don't offer that creative spark. I mean, a lot of those guys, especially guys like Zelson, I mean, they're very much they're a run at you type of player rather than a playmaker. And I think, you know, when Chiquinho has an off day, your only guy who can cover that role for now, which doesn't probably apply to next season, is a 19-year-old. That's a depth issue right there. So, I mean, I would say I agree with all those. And the only other thing I guess I would say, like you said, I don't think we need a new striker right now, but we do need to start thinking about that in a similar sense that we need to start thinking about midfield, because chances are we are not going to have all three of these strikers next season. You assume that one of Taremi or Yaremchuk will probably depart. And then Ayub, I mean, again, he's another guy who's getting to a point in his career where he could have a fall off.
If somehow Ayub doesn't stay, then we're talking about a calamity level disaster.
Oh yeah,
for the team, because Mouzakitis and Pirola, for me, are expected departures, and I'll get into what you said in a bit. But if Ayub doesn't stay, that's a scenario that we shouldn't even have to think about with where things are right now.
No, I mean, like you said, I mean that would be apocalyptic. But that's why, and I think this is something that I think we've kind of, from a club standpoint, tried to avoid the past 18 months, is what does life look like after Ayub El-Kabi? We already sold Babis Costulas. He would have probably been your rightful heir to that sort of position at the front. He's gone. Who is that going to be? I mean, you would hope that you have some time to develop a younger player, whether that's through the club or by purchase. But it is something we need to think about, especially considering the fact that it's not certain that he will renew. So, I mean, I think we're in a weird spot, kind of like you said. We don't necessarily need a bunch of players right now, but going into the summer, this is probably a squad that is going to need a major overhaul, because we're going to lose some big players, and you hope that it's only a couple. But like we've just mentioned, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we're losing 3 or 4 of our top line starters. So it's one of those things where you kind of do have to start trying to play the long game a little bit, while addressing some of our immediate needs.
The summer issue as well, aside from what you said, is the Greek problem as well, because we're losing most of them this summer if stuff is as goes. On one hand, yeah, we have the academy, but with how stuff is going in the academy, I fear that we're going to lose some of our best prospects as well. But that's a conversation that I want to leave for the summer, ideally. Now, in an ideal scenario, we go for all 4 positions that we mentioned, which is left back, winger / creative player, Danny Garcia replacement, and a centre back. I'm not mentioning Mouzakitis because I don't think that you can find a solution good enough to step up for Mouzakitis in January. You find Chiquinho like once every 10 years. That won't happen again. So I think we need to look and be ready in the summer, unlike we did with Babis Kostulas. But if stuff lands and there is a name that's circling, which I would be happy with, and that name is, of course, Fred, and we lost Gav. I don't know what's happened. But as I was saying, that name is Fred. But I don't know if we can actually go on and hope for a scenario that idealistic, if that makes sense. So I close up as well, slowly but surely, because I don't think that Gav is gonna come back, and my voice, as you all can hear, is dying. What we need to do today is take a step back, realize that everyone is at fault. Because as I said when I was coming back from the stadium, there is no point after this game, how it went and how we showed up, to put blame on one person or on one factor specifically. It's everyone. We need to take a step back, put out our criticism, because we can't just hide from it. Let the team figure out their stuff, and then go all in against Leverkusen. We play half our season in that game, and we need to show up accordingly. I hope that we were solid company for you all. I hope that we were a way for you to let out your thoughts as well. And I hope you all enjoyed. As always, I will God, I will probably see you all tomorrow with the EuroLeague recap with the game against Partizan. And then, if you all want it, which it seems like you will, go to the socials, Instagram and Twitter. I have put up a poll for if you still want to see the vlog from today, because I have footage ready. I just need to record the intro, which I usually do the next day. But I have footage ready. So, if you all want that, go vote, and I'll see you all tomorrow. As always, see you soon. Thank you.